So after a bit more due diligence on the townhouses, that's when I realized Runcorn townhouses are in a oversupply state, and it's probably not a good idea to actually buy something that potentially will lose value no matter how good the cash flow analysis is, because fundamentally for resi property, you still want to look at growth is number one. So I kept looking around Runcorn, and then I realized that another suburb that's next to Runcorn called Kuraby has got properties that's actually around the high 300s, and it's a house, not a townhouse. So that's where I kept looking and doing more due diligence on Kuraby, especially the areas that's closer to the train station on the southern part of Kuraby. On the northern part there's a mosque as well, so I did realize that, and as I walk around the area. But on the southern side, you know, there are a couple of properties which were selling at that time around the high 300s. So I thought that wasn't too bad until I kept going south, going past Underwood, going past Underwood, and then going past Compton Road when I hit Woodridge and Logan Central. That's when I found essentially the whole Logan area, which was completely foreign to me at that point in time. But all I know at that time is, gosh, how can a property be so cheap? That was my number one thought. When property was selling about high 200s and renting for 350 or even 400, depending on whether you are able to do dual occupancy, that to me is a no-brainer. So that's how I came across to Logan, and that's how I started doing more research in terms of my next property. It's all about a yield in that place, because if you think about it, if you buy low in terms of the purchase price, let's say if you buy for about $300,000, how much lower can it get to a degree? So, you know, from risk perspective, it's high rental return, low entry price, and it's a house sitting on a 600 square meter block of land. So, you know, to me, that is pretty much ticking all the risk boxes for me. So, you know, like, I've mitigated everything, the numbers look great, and that's why my number 3 property, which actually ended up in Slacks Creek, next to Logan Central, that's how it leads me to my next Slacks Creek property. And I'll talk a bit more about the Slacks Creek property analysis next time, but essentially that is how I came across to Logan after researches from townhouses in Runcorn all the way to Kuraby, where there's the houses, down a bit more at Underwood, which actually is a bit more expensive suburb, and then across the border of Compton Road. Then that's when I hit the next gem of Logan area. Okay, so there you go. There's another part of my story today. I hope you like it. So essentially, you know, the reason behind why I was looking at Brisbane, just to sum it up, Brisbane is the 3rd largest capital city in Australia. It's got population, it's got infrastructure, it hosts about 20% of the overall Australian population, roughly around that time. And then also at that time, the entry price is relatively affordable, which means the gross rental return on that is very, very good, looking at around 5 to 6% gross rental return. So that to me is a safe haven in terms of mitigating all the risks. You know, for the ones that I want to look at smaller investments, higher rental returns, so that I can actually afford to hold them a long time. It ticks all my boxes around that time. So I'll talk a little bit more next time about my Slacks Creek property. But during the meantime, if you got any questions, feel free to comment below. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again in next week's Invest Power episode.